Hello, this is Pernilla Lillerose from Divine Feminine Flow. And I always talk about the flow and I always talk about self-love because they come together like so perfectly. The flow is really who and what you are. It is the movement of your spirit, your soul. I mentioned the other day, it's the Holy Ghost. It's also used as in some biblical terms. It's kind of a movement. And this movement is how we create and express ourselves. It is literally who and what we are. And there is nothing that is missing there. It is the infinite, unlimited potential. It is just everything that is. And of course, that includes you and I. So, what we've done, we have created this separate sense of self. And maybe created is not the right word. We are imagining that we are a separate sense of self. And then our attention and expression goes towards that imagination. And this imagination is lacking a lot of things. Have you noticed? We live in this realm of limitations and lack and suffering because we have created an image of ourselves. We have imagined a version of ourselves that is separate from the flow. So what happens is any part out there, and I know I say out there, it is really all happening in the mind, but we do experience it as if it's out there. So I will speak that way. Those parts of us that we have imagined are true, we don't like them, right? We don't like the belief, the feeling of not being good enough, of not being lovable. These are all the creations in our mind that we believe that we are. So we do not allow love there. I want to compare it with a water hose where the flow is like a water hose and it just flows because it is connected to the full source. There's nothing lacking in the flow that's coming through the hose, which we can say is you and I as an image. So every time we deny any part of us access to love, to kindness, to unlimited potential, that is like we put a kink in the hose. And guess what happened? There's nothing flowing out to us. It's simply kinked, it's cut off. There's no water coming through, there's no energy coming through. It's not going to make any difference if you go out there to work really, really hard at making money, being successful. You're still creating it as a separate sense of self happening in your mind. You are not connected to the flow. So, what I have seen over the years, and I have used this metaphor before, it's like we need to unkink the hose so that it can just start flowing again naturally, gracefully, easily. And what happens when we unkink it, our life starts filling up again. Instead of being like a little raisin, it starts plumping out and becomes a beautiful grape again. And the way I know how to unkink is to first become aware that I have created a kink in my hose, in my flow. And the deeper work is, investigating or inquiring about what is it, what belief, what feeling, what memory makes this hose kink. Because until we know what the kink is, it's going to be harder to unkink it. So we do a little inquiry there. And once you find it, then we start allowing the flow to move to that kink and through the kink so it opens up. Self-love is really a magic bullet to unkink a kink in the hose. So the kink is where we reject ourselves, hate ourselves, judge ourselves. It's really like when we do that, it's like we say no to this. And then nothing is coming out there, right? And you're just wondering what is wrong with you. Another kink happens. And then you work hard at it and nothing is working. So you think maybe God doesn't love you. Another kink happens. So all these beliefs that we have, all these identities that we have, and all these suggestions of negativity and lack and limitations, all of these, when we accept them, we kink up the hose and very, very little comes out. Maybe a little drop if you haven't closed it off all the way. So in my experience, the way to unkink a hose that is clogged is just find out, oh, I see. I really don't like that part of me. So just by doing that, you see, there's already some kindness in that. Instead of going, you go, oh. So it's almost like you open up your hand or your willingness, your heart to find out, oh, it's because I don't love myself. It's because I don't like the way I did that. Or it's because I believe that these people don't like me. And these are all the contractions. So when we are being present with that, there is already a love coming through, a different energy. You feel when there is a willingness to meet it. Can you feel in that there is already a softening, right? There's a warmth, there's a softening. And when you soften the kink, it opens up a little bit. And then you could do a little more. And what we do with that kink that has been really traumatized and in pain and scared because it was not receiving any of the sustenance, any of the nourishment that it needs to open back up to the flow. So that's why I think that self-love is so magical. And I think it's really something that we can all learn to do and to be and to become just a vessel of love. And if we don't bring that love to all the kinks in our lives, all the places that we have cut ourselves off from the flow, if we cannot do it here, there will still be these contractions and these kinks in the hose, and it can't really flow out to anyone else. You know, we can pretend, and I'm not saying that we aren't loving and giving, but it's still happening from that separate sense of self, who then thinks, oh, I have to be loving, you know, I have to be loving, I have to be giving, I have to be forgiving. It's all great. I'm not going to argue with that. I'd rather be with somebody who is loving and forgiving than somebody who's angry and whatever, blaming. But it's not necessarily connected to the flow. Part of it probably is, but you know, we can open up more to the flow by bringing more love and kindness and acceptance to all the parts that we have shut off. And it reminds me of a poem by Rumi, and let me see if I can remember it. It is not your task to seek for love. You only need to seek all the places that you have built against it. I think I butchered that poem up a little bit, but it is something to that extent. And so we don't need to seek for love, just finding out where have we closed ourselves off from love. And then just do our best to open up again. I sure hope that's helpful and that you feel inspired to start bringing some kindness to all these little kinks in your hose.